back to my channel. I'm Anna Maria, the pharmacist with the suitcase, and I'm your best travel companion to discover the beauties around the world. In today's episode, we are going to see what's inside of the Shirvanshahs Palace in Baku, Azerbaijan. Are you ready? Could I miss the Shirvanshahs Palace? Nah, let's go and see that. The Palace of the Shirvanshahs is a 15th century palace built by the Shirvanshahs and described by UNESCO as one of the pearls of Azerbaijan's architecture. It is located in the inner city of Baku and, together with the Maiden Tower, forms an ensemble of historic monuments inscribed under the UNESCO World Heritage List of Historical Monuments. The complex contains the main building of the palace, Divanhane, the burial vaults, the shah mosques with a minaret, Seyid Yahya Bakuvi's mausoleum, the so-called mausoleum of the dervish, Murad's gate, a reservoir, and the remnants of a bathhouse. In the past, the palace was surrounded by a wall with towers and thus served as the inner stronghold of Baku fortress. Despite the fact that at the present time no traces of this wall have survived on the surface as late as the 1920s, the remains of apparently the foundation of the tower and the part of the wall connected with it could be distinguished in the northeastern side of the palace. The time of its construction is determined by the dates and the inscriptions on the architectural monuments, which refer to the complex of the palace. Such two inscriptions were completely preserved only by the tomb and minaret of the Shah's mosque. The ruler who ordered to establish this building, Şirvanşahlar. The complex used to occupy more area. There were rooms for court servants. The main buildings of the ensemble were built at different times. The builders of the ensemble relied on the traditions of the Şirvan architectural school. In 1964, the palace complex was declared a museum preserve and taken under the protection of the state. The palace is depicted on the obverse of the Azerbaijani 10,000 manat banknote of the 1994-2006 and on the 10 new manat banknote issued since 2006. The throne room. In the 15th century, the Şirvanşah dynasty under Ibrahim I of Şirvan transferred his capital from Şemaka to Baku following a devastating earthquake. The building is believed to be a memorial complex built around the sacred place of worship and tomb of Seyid Yahya Bakuvi, who was a Helvari Sufi saint. The Shirvanshahs were patrons of the Helvari Sufi order, and Shirvanshah Khalilullah I was buried with his family in the grounds of the palace. Other historians argue that the building was used as the ruler's palace. Both theories suffer from the absence of evidence. It is known that wells inside the grounds of the palace were considered to have healing qualities until recent times, as was the hill where the palace was built. After the Safavid conquest of Baku in 1501, the Sufi order was expelled. Over centuries, the palace fell into ruin and was known in Baku as Baku Khan's Palace. Until 1501, there was not any information found about the building of the palace. According to one of the Persian chronicles, in that year, the troops of Shirvanshah Farukh Yesaq, the son of Khalil Uldi I, were defeated in Shemaka by the troops of Shah Ismail I from the Safavid dynasty. Farukh Yesar was killed in the Battle of Shirvanshah. The troops of Ismail I, having defeated near Shemaka, moved to Baku, besieged it, and after several assaults took the city. Then, a tall building of Shirvanshahs was destroyed due to the order of Shah Ismail I. After a while, the city of Baku and its entire district as well as Shirvan were governed by the governors who were placed by the Safavids. There is not any detailed information about the people who lived in the palace and in what state it was in the first half of the 16th century. In the second half of the 16th century, there was a war between the Safavids and the Ottoman Empire. In 1578, the Turks conquered Baku. From the time of the rule of the Ottoman Empire in the palace area, the gate in the palace wall surrounding the palace from the east has been preserved. From the inscription placed on the portal of this gate, it follows that they were built during the reign of the Turkish Sultan Murad III. Due to the literary works, there were Turkish pashas living in the palace at the time. The East Gate is a witness of this. Since the 17th century, the palace was empty, and there were not any government officials. The abbot of the monastery and the representative of the Isfahan mission, Capuchin Padre Raphael Dumans, in his essay in 1660, described Şirvanşahs palace in Baku fortress and gave information about its desolation and destruction. In 1724, Baku was besieged by the troops of Peter I and the city was bombed. The palace was transferred to the Russian military department in the middle of the 19th century. The Russian military department made a partial renovation of the palace. At the same time, the significant restructuring was carried out, which adapted the palace facilities to warehouses for military equipment. During this period, the Eastern Orthodox Church in Baku sought the demolition of the palace to build a Baku cathedral in its place. However, this petition was rejected by the Tsarist authorities only because the premises of the palace were used for large warehouses. The palace ensemble is now protected by fortress walls erected in the first half of the 19th century. During existence of the Azerbaijan Democratic Republic 1918-1920, a number of measures were taken to study and fix architectural monuments. Thus, at the end of 1918, the dimensional drawings of the Şirvanşahs palace were made by the Ismail Beknabi Oglu, the architectural engineer. Since 1920, the cleaning of the palace from the age-old layers of garbage and partial repairs began, accompanied by archaeological reconnaissance.
Between March the 31st and April the 2nd, 1918, the Armenian Shahs committed the genocide of Azerbaijanis in many parts of Azerbaijan, including Baku. In the city of Baku, 12,000 innocent civilians fell victims of the massacre. The traces of the shooting you can still see on the palace walls.
After the extensive repair and restoration works of 1932-1934 conducted by Azcope together with the Moscow State Restoration Workshops for projects designed by architects Boris Zazipkin, the building of the former Shirvanshah Palace was given to the Azerbaijan History Museum Azfan. In 1937-1938, under the guidance of archaeologist Vadim Leviatov, archaeological excavations were carried out in the palace and a large number of artifacts dating from the 12th-15th centuries were found. The excavations revealed the remains of a once densely populated residential quarter. Numerous fragments of ceramic products and coins date it to the 8th-9th centuries. For some time, the Azerbaijan People's Museum and the Museum of the History of Religion were located in the palace building. In 1964, was transformed into the State Historical and Architectural Museum Reserve complex of the Şirvanşahs Palace.
This is the tomb of Seyid Yahya Bakuvi, which is also known as the dervish tomb. Nothing inside. Super tiny.
In 1992, new restoration works began. The author of the restoration project of the palace complex was Niyazi Rzayev. Restoration began from the throne room. In 2000, at the 24th session of the UNESCO World Heritage Committee, the historical part of the city of Baku, İçeri Şehir, along with the palace, was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site from Azerbaijan. These were the first objects included in the list of UNESCO located on the territory of Azerbaijan. In 2006, the next restoration of the palace was completed. In 2017, the Maiden Tower and the Palace of the Shirvanshahs were awarded with the Certificate of Excellence. Also, this video came to its end. If you enjoyed watching it, please leave a like and share it with your friends, as this would push me so much to keep on doing such nice contents. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon, because doing like this, you won't miss the new episodes. See you next Monday. Ciao!